Hey, 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 happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, gaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief, and more incredibly enough, all throughout this month and into next, we are sponsored by Roll for Combat and their Battle Zoo Bestiary Elemental Storm Kickstarter, which we will talk about in just a little bit. Well, welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Wednesday, September 18th, 2024. This is live show 1101. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. Then I'll usually pontificate about a topic related to our hobby, which I shall be doing tonight. In fact, tonight I'll be talking about pitfalls which tabletop gaming reviewers need to avoid. And sadly, many of them do not. But we are going to talk about that tonight. Nice. But of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Lastly, because this is a live show, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 10 minutes before you can take part in chat. Yeah, another way I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you check both those boxes and you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, a comment, by all means, fire away. I'll do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight, bursting from the shadows, is the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D., one of our chat moderators, followed by good friend of the show, the Madman, another of our chat moderators, Gleamwood RX, Mike, Wallona's Cave, Semper Buffo, Cthulhu, and W Forge are all with us in chat as well tonight. So welcome aboard, everybody. Anyway, as I had pointed out, the fine folks over at Roll for Combat happen to be our sponsor throughout September and into October. And of course, they are just crowing about their Battle Zoo Bestiary Elemental Storm Kickstarter, which funded within minutes of launching. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about it because it's over 250 pages. And it brings hundreds of new monsters and monster slaying options to 5e Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Deliver a fresh and exciting experience and keep players guessing with over 170 new elemental monsters that channel the power of 20 unique elements, including classics like Earth, Wind, and Fire and Air, as well as new elements like music, space, and time. Your players will never know what's coming. But what does award-winning monsters actually mean? Each monster found within all of the Battle Zoo Bestiaries, including this one, was submitted to an open contest for new and aspiring monster designers. Entries were judged in 2 rounds. First, all entries went through an open judging process where anyone could rank each monster based on a number of criteria. After that round was completed, the top monsters were selected, and then industry professionals scored the top entries on new criteria, producing copper, silver, gold, and platinum winners, as well as one grand prize winner, which was depicted on the cover. Not only did each winner get their monster depicted in this book, but each was also awarded a cash prize. I won my $2. I'm sure they got more than $2. Maybe $3. Inside the book itself, next to each monster, you'll see each winner's name as well as the medal rank. So yes, each monster in these books is actually award-winning. Now, you can reserve a copy of the hardcover in the flavor of your choice, either Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder, for a $60 pledge. Or if you want to just score the PDF alone, you can do so for a $30 pledge through October 8th. Expected delivery is next spring. And yes, through the magic of streaming, I actually have a copy of Elemental Storm. That I'm not supposed to share with you. So I like doing this and then be like, I've been sworn to secrecy on this. But of course, as you can see, the lovely cover here, yes, this is for the 5e compatible edition. Very nice. I should also point out that the Mimic showed up from Roll for Combat. I want to say, if I remember correctly, I think it was the creature book that's actually behind me, but you can't see it. I'm kind of blocking it out. I want to say that was the book that they did a Kickstarter for, and then I believe if you had supported the Kickstarter in the first 48 hours, you got this. And I asked Steven from Roll for Combat, hey, would you mind sending me one? And he said, yeah, I'll send you one when they come in. So there you go. There's the Mimic. Oh, it even says Roll for Combat on the bottom. So this arrived today. So I will actually be popping this behind me. Now, one thing I did notice, so I'll just show you. So you can store dice in here, of course. And this actually closes up pretty well. It doesn't just pop open, but it will open to about like that. So there you go. So I will be placing that back up behind me, probably during the brief intermission, a little bit later. So there's that. Kathy Evans and Chris Lundgren are popping on into chat. And yes, Chris has their buddy with them, is Cockatiel, is hanging with us as well. Kevin R. Smith is also popping on in. Good to see Kevin. Kevin said, YouTube streamers get replicators now. Awesome. Yeah, what can I tell you? Hey, we have passed 14,000 subscribers to the channel. That's kind of cool. We did that over the weekend. So as I had mentioned, it'd be nice if more of those subscribers actually watched videos, but and I don't know, it's kind of weird because we get more subscribers. I'm not really doing any contests. So it's not as if I'm doing anything where it's like, oh, I got to be a subscriber, like the contests I do. Although I will have some contests coming up. I'll even mention one during the news. Speaking of the news, let's get down to it, because Creepshow, the suspense building game, is now available from Skybound Tabletop. Here's what I know. Make your next game night even creepier. Spin some tales and dig some graves in this ghoulish storytelling game. Welcome to Creepshow, a wicked story building game where players become creeps and weave twisted tales where dastardly deviants meet well-earned demises. You'll need strategy and cunning for this game. Yeah, I've got a cunning plan, me lord. And to know when to push your luck, because deception could be waiting at every turn. Creeps create chains of story cards and secretly fill them with suspense. At key moments in the story, when tension is highest, creeps can bet on the amount of suspense to score big. But beware of other creeps sabotaging the story, or you may just lose your head. The game includes 54 story cards, 9 ending cards, 34 double-sided point tokens, and 5 reference cards. Creepshow, the suspense-building game, was designed by Skybound and features artwork from various designers from the Skybound original comic book anthology of the same name. Creepshow, the suspense-building game, is for 2 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 40 to 60 minutes, and carries an MSRP of $19.99. I like the artwork. The artwork's got a little bit of an EC vibe to it. And yes, I get it. It's Creepshow. It is not based on an EC comic of the day. But still, definitely dig that. And if I remember correctly, I think Creepshow is returning. Or it just returned as far as a comic book. I want to say it's from Skybound, but it's through Image Comics as well, if I remember correctly. So kind of cool. And it's a spooky game, which is available right now. We talk about this all the time. We start getting these horror games, spooky games popping up, and it's like, oh, coming out November 14th. And you're like, what? Why? Why not before Halloween? What's going on with that? So I'm doing a spooky September. And I've got some more videos coming very shortly. Speaking of horror games, landing in stores next week is Call of Cthulhu, The Order of the Stone. And here's the scoop from Chaosium Inc. A horror mystery in 3 parts. In Ireland, is that it? Is that how it's pronounced? Archaeological, there we go. Falling all over my tongue here. An archaeological team unearths an ancient horror trapped within 3 stone vessels. The foul entity sets its followers on a journey to free it from its prison, crossing the Atlantic to New England and the backwoods of rural Massachusetts. Can the investigators prevent the liberation of the ruler of chaos? Will they discover the secrets of the Order of the Stone? Inside, you'll find a 3-part 1920s era mystery, ideal for Arkham-based campaigns. There's also 6 pre-generated investigators, as well as a suite of downloadable resources, maps, characters, and handouts. The Order of the Stone is designed to be used with the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game, or you can also include the Pulp Cthulhu supplement. Both are available separately. It's important to keep in mind, too, the scenarios in this book do deal with mature themes and are intended for mature players. The 152-page Call of Cthulhu, The Order of the Stone hardcover arrives in stores on September 25th, does carry an MSRP of $42.99, and strangely enough, it is not available for pre-order yet on Chaosium's website. I thought that was very strange because it's in transit to me right now. And I've got the PDF. In fact, I am going to see if I can give away a copy of the PDF for Call of Cthulhu, The Order of the Stone, when I do my review, because there is an embargo on the review until September 25th. So I'm just waiting for, I haven't finished reading it. I do want to point that out. I have started reading it, but I can't share any sort of review of it until the 25th. So I figure I should be seeing it in the next couple of days. Fingers crossed, because it's only coming from like Michigan to Illinois. So it shouldn't be too bad. But I am really looking forward to this. A new Call of Cthulhu campaign. Granted, it's short. It's 3 adventures. One of them is shipboard. I do know that because there are handouts for the, I want to say it's the SS Champagne. And I believe it's a small cruise ship. Very nice. Very nice. Saraxaran1 and Agile Monk are with us in chat. Welcome to you both. Moving on to our next news piece. Let's keep the fear rolling because Kids in the Attic is in the midst of a successful crowdfunding project to bring Sleepy Hollow, a folk horror role-playing game, to the public. Here's the lowdown. The Sleepy Hollow core book is a complete and immersive folk horror role-playing game, fully equipped to transport players to the eerie world of 19th century Sleepy Hollow. Utilizing the Year Zero engine, this system is known for its intuitive mechanics and narrative-driven approach, allowing for a seamless and engaging gameplay experience. The game offers a rich blend of history, folklore, and horror, meticulously crafted to provide both depth and flexibility. Sleepy Hollow is a complete role-playing game experience, meticulously crafted with everything you need. The core book includes the introduction, which sets the stage for your adventures, introducing the themes and atmosphere of Sleepy Hollow. The basic rules, which provides the foundational mechanics of the Year Zero engine, ensuring a smooth and engaging gameplay experience. There's character creation, which guides you through building characters with rich backgrounds and unique traits using thematic archetypes. Speaking of those archetypes, they detail various roles such as the wandering minstrel, hunter, and village youth, each with distinct abilities and stories. Skills and talents, which outlines the skills and special talents your characters can develop, enhancing their capabilities in the dark world of Sleepy Hollow. You also have gears and weapons. Gears should just be gear, singular, and weapons, describing the essential equipment from everyday tools to food and lodging that your characters will need to navigate their eerie encounters. There's conflict, injury, and of course, you've got the game rules for the mechanics for handling those, as well as other conflicts which arise during gameplay. There's the setting. Explore the haunted village, its landmarks, notable residents, and hidden secrets, providing rich context to your adventures. There's rules about travel in wilderness. There's monsters and encounters, which details the various creatures and adversaries that lurk in Sleepy Hollow, from supernatural horrors to mundane threats. There's even a ready-to-play adventure to kickstart your campaign, featuring occult sinister plans during the Headless Horseman Festival. Plus, you want to keep an eye out because there are bonus chapbooks, which are being unlocked through stretch goals, which will expand on these elements and offer even more richness to the game. With these additional chapters, Sleepy Hollow ensures a fully immersive experience that captures the atmosphere and challenges of 19th century New England. Now, I do want to point out, these stretch goals, I don't think are part of the pledges. In fact, I am nearly positive they are not. But this is a project over on BackerKit. It is past the 400% funding mark, and you can reserve a code for an at-cost print copy for a $25 pledge. You can score just the PDF alone for a $10 pledge through October 1st. Expected delivery on this is right after the project concludes. So you will get the PDF shortly after October 1st. you will get your coupon or your code to get a print copy at cost from Drive-Thru RPG. That's who's doing the fulfillment on this right after October 1st. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Maddie C is with us in chat, says they love the Year Zero engine and they backed this one. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. It does. Artwork looks excellent. And all in all, I think I saw 6 chapbooks, splat books, whatever they want to call them, outside of just the core book. I was like, well, looks like they've got some plans for quite a few things in this. So very nice. Definitely like that quite a bit. So if you're kind of curious about Sleepy Hollow, swing on over to the Kids in the Attic Games website, as well as Backer Kit. Moon right along. An interesting looking new zine for the Hyper Tellurians role-playing game, I think I've pronounced that correctly, is now available. And here's what I know about Ultra Cosmic from Mottokrosh Machinations. Wonder awaits in the first ever Hyper Tellurians zine, crammed full of eminently gameable material from delightful and dazzling role-playing game artists and luminaries. It's a zine for Hyper Tellurians and other science fantasy games. It's 56 illustrated A5 pages of adventures, rules, locations, items, fiction, and more. It's softcover, stitch-bound, Munkin paper, and it includes 4 brand new adventures, as well as 2 full adventure locations with factions, characters, plots, and hooks. Hyper Tellurians is a standalone role-playing game system, but it's compatible enough with most old or modern fantasy adventure games for the game master to convert modules from those systems on the fly. In this game, the players portray the Hyper Tellurians, adventuring the length and breadth of the Ultracosm in retro science fantasy style. Take control of one of 6 archetypes and choose or create a unique concept by layering on fun, inventive, and story-driving powers. This 56-page zine with PDF is available at Exalted Funeral for an MSRP of $26. Or if you want to just score the PDF alone, you can do so over at Drive-Thru RPG for $9.99. Gotta say, I like the look of this. This looks pretty cool. Solid artwork throughout. Looks like most of the articles and little adventure seeds and adventures might be 2 to 4 pages in length. So a lot of bite-sized goodies in this zine. It's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. And I'll be the first to point out, I am not familiar with Mottokrosh Machinations at all. Or Mottokrosh. Very nice. Kabuki Kid is with us in chat. Double K's in the house. Good to see you once again. And let's finish up with yet more horror, because there is a creepy looking role-playing game from Psychoda Press. It is available in print and PDF. And I've got the skinny on Ruination Pilgrimage. Ruination Pilgrimage is a panic engine game of horror. For some reason, my teleprompter locked up on me there. Of horror, plague, warfare, and demons set in a medieval age. Within this book are rules, light setting hints, and many tables filled with the information to run long campaigns or one-off sessions. There are 5 playable classes: fighter, priest, merchant, scholar, or laborer. Multiple tables are used to generate previous jobs with skills and stat bumps, histories, random starting kits, and a vice. Vices are leveraged at certain times in the game and interact with the panic engine introduced in the Mothership science fiction horror role-playing game by Tuesday Night Games. Percentile dice are used to attempt actions with success and failures depending on if the dice result are below or above the attribute score or save. Sorrow is accumulated on failed rolls and demonic encounters. If enough sorrow builds up, characters may despair and find themselves in worse situations. Play as a fighter trained in either archery or arms, merchants with their fast talking and deal making persuasiveness, scholars who are highly trained in the sciences and arts, the clergy who are able to invoke angels and utter nearly magical prayers, and lastly, the laborer who toils and creates the tools used in everyday life and the never-ending war with the legions of demons. This 65-page softcover saddle-stitched zine is available at Space Penguin Inc. Carries an MSRP of $40, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99. Definitely like that map that you're taking a peek at right now. This looks like this could be pretty interesting, and it is built on Mothership's game engine, but it is not a science fiction horror role-playing game. Kind of cool. Kind of cool. And of course, yes, it's percentile dice. It's a D100 system. So it's not like, oh my gosh, it's amazing that it's not science fiction horror. I just find it interesting that it points out that it uses the Panic engine, which is from Mothership. But this is kind of a fantasy horror sort of role-playing game by the looks of it. All right, very nice. Very nice. That is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go visit, say, Drive-Thru RPG, Storyteller's Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. It tickles my innards. And there are a few of you who do pop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang and make not small donations. That is much, much appreciated. And I am talking about folks like the Madman and Joshua Edwards and Kevin King and Agile Monk. Those are the most recent. So very nice. Very cool. Stephen from Roll for Combat is popping on in. Said, hey, I just got here. Did you get the Mimic? Yes, I already showed the Mimic off. Stephen missed it. I was talking about the Mimic. I was showing it off. Also, I guess he likes the Pitfall graphic for the thumbnail for tonight's video. Yes, because I'm talking about pitfalls. That's right. Yes, I'm talking about pitfalls that tabletop gaming reviewers need to avoid. And sadly, there are a good number of them who do not. But before we get into that topic, I do want to share some stuff that arrived today. I got quite a bit of stuff popping up alongside the Mimic. So I got a bunch of releases for the Tenaries role-playing game. So I got this. This is a slipcase set with the 3 core books for it. This is 5e compatible. And I believe this is sort of kind of a demonic fantasy game. I know pretty much nothing about it. The publisher reached out. It is Dragori Games. And they reached out to me asking if I'd be interested in taking a peek at this. I said, yeah, sure. Yeah, if you'd like. So I get this huge box. It also has the GM-less pack, which is full of cards, various different cards, so you can play this without a game master. I got an art book. Dice, as well as there's like a mini game here. Agile Monk has hit us up with a super chat in honor of Steven from Roll for Combat and the Mimic. I got some power cards, maps, and I have not opened this up yet to see what's inside. So maybe an adventure or something. So that was in the one box. And then I got another box that showed up, and it is from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. So it is the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition role-playing game player's guide, or player's book, I should say. So this is it's like it's just a player-facing book for creating characters. That is what it looks like with the rules and everything. So got that. As well as Pine Box, Texas Middle School. And, oh, this one's heavy. Necessary Evil. Or I guess, as I should say, Necessary Evil. So we will be taking a peek at that. And of course, as I mentioned, we know Call of Cthulhu, The Order of the Stone, is in transit too. So lots of goodies, lots of stuff arriving. So that was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I should also mention my best friend Elliot and his family got back from Alaska. They were on a cruise to Alaska for, I want to say, I think it was 10 days, if I remember correctly. The cruise itself, then there were a few days that they were like in Vancouver and Seattle and stuff like that. And they all came down with COVID. It was like, oh my gosh. They had COVID while they were on the trip. That sucks. I was like, oh my gosh. So hoping Elliot and his family feel better soon. I talked to Elliot a little bit today. He sounded just miserable. So, and I think it's the fourth time. Well, he said it's the fourth time that he's had COVID. And he works from home. That's what I don't get. It's not like out and about a bunch. He works from home. So just I just try to imagine if he had to go like commute to work every day or every weekday, how often he'd have it then. Pretty wild. Kabuki Kid says, oh, being sick on vacation, no fun. I had to fly from Phoenix to Boston for a, like business. Well, it was business, but it was mainly just partying, to be honest. For 4 days, and I had a sinus infection, and they tell you not to fly with a sinus infection, and I was just getting the infection. I had never had one before, and there was no way I could get out of it. I had to go. Otherwise, I would have been in deep, deep shit. Talk about misery. It was awful. And it was the middle of winter, too. So I think it was like January in Boston. Although I had never gone to Boston before. Had a good time. It was pretty cool. But yeah, it was pretty chilly. Thankfully, I grew up in Chicago, even though living out in Arizona, your blood does thin a little bit. So, all right. Game Cat's with us in chat. People are pointing out they're getting a bit of lag. I'm taking a peek here. Sorry to say, it is, it's a YouTube thing. Not coming from my end. So what you can consider doing is you can refresh the page. A lot of times that works. Let me see. I just double check my settings here. See if I should bring down the settings. No, we're not too high. So I don't want to drop them any lower. Chris Lundgren says some people, research says that they're known as repeat infection prone. Knock on wood, I have not had COVID yet. Or if I have had COVID, it was like the flu. Because I did have what I thought was the flu once since COVID popped up. But if I remember, I think I even took a COVID test and it came back negative. So anyway, so there is that. All right. So as I mentioned, tonight, I'm going to talk about some pitfalls that tabletop gaming reviewers need to avoid. But before we do that, I think it's time for a brief intermission. If it would.
It's intermission time. Time for refreshment. During the next 10 minutes, you'll find hot dogs, juicy hamburgers, and mouth-watering delicious pizza. There are refreshing hot and cold beverages, ice-cold cola, wide selection of your favorite candies, and other delicious snacks. And there's always a fresh batch of hot buttered popcorn to go with the rest of the show. So visit the refreshment stand now during this 10-minute intermission and add to your enjoyment of the movie. We're happy to have you with us tonight and hope you'll come back often.
When I was 17 and courting Josephine, her pa kept asking me to shoot. But I faced up to his muzzle and offered him a guzzle of that friendly, hypey, good old Mountain Dew. Yahoo! Mountain Dew! It'll tickle your innards.
10th floor, pots, pans, home furnishings, and Wilkins Coffee. Wilkins Coffee? Sure, you can't keep house without Wilkins. You know, the Leaning Tower of Pisa reminds me of Wilson's Certified Bacon.
Why does the Leaning Tower of Pisa remind you of Wilson's Certified Bacon?
Because nothing's leaner than Wilson's Certified. Leaner, get it?
No joke, folks. For a great breakfast, we lean toward the lean goodness of Wilson's Certified Bacon. This is the bacon to take to your frying pan.
How about this one? When is an oven like a delicious breakfast?
I don't know, when is an oven like a delicious breakfast?
When it's bacon!
It's a great bacon. Sugar-cured, hardwood smoked, fries sizzling crisp every time. Wilson's Certified Bacon. Now back to the Leaning Tower.
You know what happens when you fry Wilson's Certified Bacon?
I'm afraid to ask.
It becomes Wilson's Certified Bacon.
Help stamp out bad jokes. Buy Wilson's Certified Bacon.
Cannonball. An old cannonball is going to be passing you like you weren't even there.
Anyone can enter, and anything goes in a squealing, smashing outlaw race across America.
I want to make a little bet on the Trans-American Grand Prix. Can you handle $20,000?
Gentlemen know each other, don't you? Mr. Redmond, Mr. Buckman. I believe we run into each other once or twice.
It's a cross-country demolition derby.
I mean to win this one. And if you so much as come within 100 miles of me, you're going to wind up with my tire tracks right up your...
The winner gets $100,000. The losers keep what's left of their cars.
Nice, huh?
Get me the highway patrol.
We're trying to get a word here with Brad Phillips, organizer of the race. Brad, tell me, Your race has been called an outlaw sporting event. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, the police and safety officials around the country get upset because our drivers tend to exceed the speed limits.
One speeding ticket and you're back in prison.
Oh, God, there's trouble.
It's a freeway free-for-all that hits with the impact of a head-on collision.
I thought this car could beat anything on the road.
This car the winner.
Cannonball.
What an awful movie. What an absolutely awful movie. And it's actually based in a real race, the Cannonball Run. I don't think anybody takes part in that anymore, but I know in the 60s and 70s that was kind of a thing. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think Hunter S. Thompson even wrote a story about the Cannonball Run. So there is that. Some discussion about COVID in chat. My condolences to those of you out there who lost loved ones and friends to COVID. Yeah, it's just crazy how some people it affected really badly, and others it was kind of like cold for them. And fingers crossed. Although I saw there was an article that just popped up the other day saying that we will see some sort of massive pandemic by, I think it was 2050 or 2030, that could lead to 50 million deaths. Like, what is this, the Spanish flu all over again? It's like, holy cow. It's like pretty wild. Kabuki Kid says the Cannonball Run ended ages ago, but some people will still unofficially do races cross country. And Darius Termina is with us in chat, as is Sean O'Donnell. Good to see Sean here as well. All right, so tonight's topic is some of the pitfalls that tabletop gaming reviewers need to avoid. And a couple of these are kind of pet peeves of mine, and we'll get into them a little bit. But I mean, people out there are, I have people ask all the time, hey, I want to get into creating content and be a gaming reviewer. What are some words of advice that I would give them? And I do notice there are some folks out there, and I'm not naming any names, so don't think I'm going to start getting into that. But I do encounter content creators where I'm like, what? Seriously? Huh? And I think the biggest pitfall that tabletop gaming reviewers fall into is thinking they're going to make big money out of doing this. I think that's the biggest one. And yes, there are a few folks out there who do quite nicely. The Dice Tower, for one. I think it was the Dice Tower that really got a lot of people thinking, wow, you know what? There's money to be made doing this. But sadly, some of those outlets did not approach their content creation, I guess we'll say, in the same way as Dice Tower. So that is the biggest pitfall that most newcomers to tabletop gaming reviewing fall into, thinking, hey, this is going to replace my day job. It's like, yeah, okay. It's like, no. So that's one. Something else that's important for game reviewers to keep in mind is they are under absolutely no obligation to the publisher. their obligation is to their audience and to be honest with their audience. And we do see a lot of times that we'll see reviewers just give a free pass on games in their reviews and basically tell you, oh, this is great. This is excellent. I mean, there are some reviewers out there. There was one podcast that is no longer around. Once again, I'm not going to name it by name, but it was a while back that it stopped producing new episodes. But every game was great. Every game was great. Now, keep in mind, it was a podcast. They weren't videos, but they would do like 2 or 3 reviews every show. And I remember right, I think it was every 2 weeks they had a show. And it was always just, oh, fantastic. And it was funny because sometimes they'd review stuff that Elliot and I had played and we're like, and everybody's got a different opinion, don't get me wrong. So, I mean, it's not like, oh, well, if you like a game and I don't like that game, oh, you're an idiot. No, not at all. Everybody's got different taste. Everybody likes different sorts of mechanics and themes and stuff like that. But it was sort of like every game they play is excellent. They weren't just, it was all right. We had a good time. I'd recommend it for such and such gamers and so gamers. No, it was always like, oh, it was great. Stephen from Roll for Combat is mentioning someone I am not familiar with. And he says every game he reviews, no matter how good or bad it is 7 out of 10 is sort of an inside joke. Well, as long as everybody knows about the inside joke, then yeah, I would think that's fine. I mean, if it's just, his gag, yeah, I could see that. I could see that. Be kind of funny. Even if he gave something like a scathing review and then be like, oh, I give that a 7 out of 10. So there are some discussions of content creators going on in chat. I'm not gonna name anybody. You guys can converse amongst yourselves in that. I'm not here to knock anybody. I'm just talking about that there are pitfalls out there that I try to avoid. I think I have actually done a really good job of avoiding them personally. But I could see where it's really easy to fall into some of these. And there are some content creators, some reviewers out there who either have fallen into these traps or willingly leapt into some of these traps. Something else I have seen over the years. Now, keep in mind, most content creators out there covering the hobby, I don't know. We talk about this all the time. I don't really watch other content creators as far as tabletop gaming goes because I really don't have time. I've talked about this before. I really don't have time. It's not that I've got any dislike or anything like that. There's a couple I do watch when I have an opportunity, like Seth Skurkowski. I really like his stuff, but I don't even get an opportunity to really watch him too often. But over the years, I have seen some reviewers, and this tends to come from board games, not role-playing games, because most role-playing game reviews are based on reading the role-playing game release, not from running the game or running an adventure or whatever. And I know some people have an issue with that, and I can understand that. But if somebody's got decades of experience of running role-playing games, you can have a pretty good feel for what a game is going to be like and not necessarily have to run it. Now, I'm not saying that you wouldn't be surprised, that, well, I just thought that was okay. And then we played it and we had a really good time. But remember, we talk about this with role-playing games quite a bit. A really good game master can take a crappy game and make it exceptional. And a crappy game master can take an exceptional game or adventure and make it pretty ho-hum. So there is that also. But getting back onto track, what I was going to say is there are times that you can tell somebody's providing their review of a game and they haven't played the game. And normally the giveaway on that is they rehash rules. It's the review itself is mainly a how to play, but it's more of a how to play that's being presented like a rule book is presented. It's not a how to play. It is a review, and it's basically going, okay, and then in this phase, you'll do this, and in this phase, you'll do that. And then they'll wrap up the review by saying, oh, we really liked it. And then they don't tell you why they liked it. They don't give you any reasons what they liked about the game. They just tell you, oh, well, we really liked it. See that happen from time to time. We also see, this was also mentioned in chat, we will see reviewers out there who only review items from a single publisher, or maybe they only review things for a particular game. 5e Dungeons and Dragons, as an example. And they're just so entwined with that product line, that they know that the existence of their outlet depends upon that product. So they're probably not going to be sitting there telling you that something's crappy if their channel depends on that product. So that's something you see as well. Something else, another pitfall that I see a lot is there's actually kind of two coins to this. One is avoiding any criticism at all. And I've pointed this out before. I come from an era where we grew up with critics. So we read newspapers. We read our film critic in our local newspaper. So, of course, here in Chicago is Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. I leaned way more towards Roger Ebert than Gene Siskel. But you would read criticism of film to get a better idea if you should go see this movie or not. Now, of course, you didn't always agree with what the critics said, but still, that's the era I come from, where if you're reviewing something, you want to give as critical an analysis as you possibly can without getting too far into the weeds, in essence. And I see more and more reviewers looking to get their videos down to 5 or 6 minutes. And yes, I have seen that report. I didn't read it. I saw the headline where half of TikTok users feel a 1 minute video is too long. It's like, what? It's like, wow. It's like, oh my God. The attention span is just minute these days. Even though I try to shorten my videos up, I'm aiming to do like 15 minutes on my reviews. And the reality is a lot of times I don't come anywhere near cutting it down to 15 minutes. But still, I do my best to try to make them shorter, but not 4 or 5 minutes. Just like there are some 1 minute reviews out there. There are 3 minute reviews out there. And in my opinion, there's nothing you're going to learn in a minute, especially when 10, 15 seconds of that minute are used for an intro and outro. I mean, that's just me. Once again, as I mentioned, I come from an age where criticism was, I don't want to say it was an art form, but it was something that was studied. And everybody wasn't an expert as far as that went. So, we had food critics and things like that. Don't really see that anymore. Don't see that. Everybody, like if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, I know I'm going off on a tangent here. I'll go to Rotten Tomatoes just to kind of get an idea of, hey, yeah, is there anything, streaming that I should be checking out? Or, a lot of times a new season of a show that I've watched pops up and I didn't realize, it was out. So, I go to Rotten Tomatoes to kind of stay up on that. And then I'll see like the consensus of the critics, and then they'll show critics and it's like, really? You're counting that person with the same sort of weight to their film criticism as someone who's a critic for, I don't know, the Los Angeles Times, and it's like Joe Blow's movie site. Like, what the fuck? It's like, really? I'm like, no, I don't think those equate. I really don't. So they're like, oh, well, this is from the Washington Post. Oh, and this is from Mom's Movie Memories. Okay. Well, they're equal. It's like, the Madman's pointing out that they think Rodney Smith does a great job of showing how to play. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think anybody would say, oh, yeah, how to play. Could you recommend a how to play video for whatever game? I'd be like, why don't you see if Rodney's done one for it? Because, I mean, that's what he's known for. Kabuki Kid points out she enjoyed Siskel and Ebert, especially when they'd fight. Yeah, that is kind of funny. Sometimes they really, they had a very strange relationship. They did sort of, it was friendly, but they weren't necessarily friends. Kevin R. Smith says, most newspaper critics have no background in films. For example, Gene Siskel wrote obituaries until the film critic column opened up. Oh, yeah, I'm not claiming that anybody, like we've mentioned Rex Reed in the past and what an awful reviewer I personally think Rex Reed had been. But the funny thing is, like a food critic doesn't have to be a chef. A food critic just has to have a developed palate where they can tell the difference between different foods. And of course, once again, criticism is an opinion. We talk about this all the time as well. But I don't see a lot of criticism or even, I don't tend to see, and once again, I don't get to see, and now I used to see far more coverage of board games and role-playing games and stuff than I do now. But a lot of times you'll see reviewers review a game that could be, okay, I'll give you a great example, right? So like Soyhander, I think that's how it's pronounced. I don't have anything against the creator. They sent me the starter set, which I did a first look video of. And I thought it wasn't, yeah, I was like, yeah, there's quite a bit packed in here. I know there's some reviews out there. People are like, oh, this is great. This is awesome. But there aren't too many people out there who reviewed it saying, well, the reality is this is just first edition Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay with the serial numbers scraped off. Don't really hear that. But that's what that game is. And it's which, fine. I guess. But it's kind of important to point that out. It's like I'll see, some people will review games where it's just a reskin of another game, but that's never brought up. So I don't know. I think in some ways I see some reviewers who don't seem to take the reviewing aspect of their videos very seriously. Just like we'll see people who do unboxing videos. Okay, here we go. This is a big pet peeve, right? They'll do unboxing videos, and the title of the video says XYZ unboxing and review. Somebody did an unboxing and review of the Savage Worlds Pathfinder Ultimate Core Box. Don't remember the outlet. It was a couple of guys. And they did an unboxing. They shot the unboxing, and there's a lot packed into that box. And then they proceeded to say, wow, this is really great. This is excellent. You should pick this up. And they reviewed it. They hadn't read a single word of any of the stuff that was in that box. And then they proceeded to say, oh, yeah, this is great value for your money. Oh, this is, and trust me, I liked it a lot. I reviewed it, but I also read what was in the box. So that's what kind of throws me off a bit is, and like I said, it's a pet peeve of mine when people will do an unboxing. Like as an example, I'm going to do an unboxing video for Pine Box, Texas Middle School. It will be an unboxing because I will not have read the book that's inside here and tell you what I think of it. So it's an unboxing. Whereas there are other content creators out there who would just open this up, show you what's in it, and then tell you, hey, that's a review. Kabuki Kid says, who takes a review like that to heart? It's not necessarily that I think people aren't bright enough to understand that it's like, that's not a review. But what bothers me about those kind of things is then it tars everybody with the same brush. It's one of the reasons why I moved further away from board game reviews, because in my opinion, it has gotten to the point where there are so many board game reviewers out there who just say the same exact thing about a game that you know damn well that some of them are not actually playing the game. They're basing the reviews off of someone else's video. And as far as, I guess I'll say a good number, I almost said a lot, but a good number of board game reviewers out there are just throwing out ho-hum reviews. Maybe they played a game once. Maybe they've read through the rule book. Maybe they watched a video that somebody else did a review of, and they're basing their review on watching that video. But there are so many board game reviewers out there who are only concerned with cranking out as much content as they possibly can in order to get the Kickstarter preview money. And I did not want to be tarred with that brush. So although I really like board games, and yes, I will review board games and I will share first looks at like war games and stuff like that, and other board games too, the main focus of the Gaming Gang now is on role-playing games. because I don't see that sort of thing going on in the role-playing game space as I do with tabletop board games. And it's a sad statement, really, because once again, it's one of these bad apples ruining it for everybody else. So, I mean, we have heard stories, and I'm going to point out once again that there are outlets out there that claim that they don't charge any money to do Kickstarter preview videos. And then I've had publishers tell me what those outlets have quoted them to do a Kickstarter video. So it's like, okay, I guess. All right. So that is a pitfall that tabletop gaming reviewers need to avoid. The lure of Kickstarter money. Because once you start taking a lot of Kickstarter money, and I do Kickstarter previews, you know that, and I tell you right up front, beginning of the video, that I've been compensated for those videos. And that's also why I don't call those videos reviews. They're always a Kickstarter preview, but I share my thoughts about the Kickstarter. But I never call it a review, nor do I ever give those review scores. So that's something I'm really, really serious about, is calling them Kickstarter previews, even if it's something that it's exactly what the consumer is going to buy. I will still only call it a preview. But it is very easy to sit there and be like, okay, and that's why you'll also see Kickstarters for especially board games, once again, where you go and check out the Kickstarter and it's the usual suspects with the videos. It's once again, I'm not naming names, but it's the same folks you see all the time. And you're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, here we go again. And there are a couple of content creators out there that the blurbs that they use in the Kickstarters, the pull quotes that you'll see in Kickstarters from them, it's almost the same exact verbiage, verbatim, every time. And you're like, okay, all right. So on one hand, you've got reviewers who avoid criticism at every opportunity, right? Where they will not critique something, even if it deserves criticism. Even if something's really good, there can be issues with it. There can be stuff where it's like, yeah, I'm not too keen on this, but I really like this. Because very rarely are you ever going to find a game that's absolutely perfect. Just do not see that. But sometimes the flip side of the avoiding criticism is that some content creators out there will review something and the review becomes a personal attack on the creator of that product. And that is, in my opinion, an absolute no-no. If you have an issue with the designer of a game, then don't take the review copy in the first place. And if for some strange reason you accept a review copy from somebody and then learn something about them that you find reprehensible, then let them know, hey, you know what? I'm sorry, I can't support you by doing a review of this. Would you like me to send it back? I could see that. But there are times where you will see a game review that just kind of disintegrates into, name calling for the designer and stuff like that. And it's like, what? It's like, I thought you were going to review this game, not talk shit about the person who created it. So yes, that is a pitfall that people can fall into as well. It's also very easy. Now, I'm friendly with a lot of publishers, and there are some folks in the industry who work for various different publishers who I consider friends in the industry. But I'll also give their releases a lackluster score if I don't care for them. So once again, that's another pitfall that you'll see some content creators fall into, is that they're personally very tight with people from a publisher or distributor or what have you. And that starts to color their reviews of those products. Just like, I'll give you a great example. Sammy Uhas does reviews for our mainly Pathfinder, Starfinder. She's done some Free League publishing stuff. She's done some Soulbound reviews, and she does written reviews, and her written reviews are really well done. But she tends to score things a little too high. So I always, if I see a review that it's like, oh, well, this, reading the review, this makes me feel like it's a 7 out of 10, but you gave it an 8.5. I'm like, is that really what you want to stick with? 8.5? Because you'll want to tweak your review a little bit. And a lot of times she's like, oh yeah, no, 7's fine. So, I mean, it happens. I mean, you can sit there and like kind of, I don't want to say give the benefit of the doubt, but a lot of times, you're reviewing something, you want people to like you. That's great. But be honest. Don't fudge what your thoughts are about a game or adventure, role-playing game, what have you, simply because you've established a relationship with the publisher. Because the reality is, a good amount of the time, if a publisher releases something that's all right, they know it. It's not going to shock them. There are times that a publisher releases something and they're like, yeah, we know there's problems. It's just, we got to release it. We got to start making money on it. We can't invest any more into this product or project. We got to start recouping our expenses off of this. So they understand that. So very rarely have I ever had a publisher get upset with me over a review score. Now, it's happened. There have been some publishers out there there were a couple over the years who just went apeshit over a negative review. And it's like, well, I'm sorry. That's my take on this. And I don't know what to tell you. It's like, it is what it is. Now, I've had people tell me that, because I pointed out before, if I'm going to give something a negative review, I let the publisher know. And if the publisher wants me to go ahead and share the review, which publishers used to do that more often than they do now. They do it less so now. Years ago, they used to be far more willing to just be like, yeah, go ahead. That's fine. Once again, as I pointed out, it's sort of like, yeah, we know there's some problems with the game. We're working on some errata for the game, things like that. Nowadays, not so much, as far as going ahead and being like, yeah, go ahead. You can do a negative or lackluster review. And I've had some folks say that I shouldn't do that. That when the publisher sends a review copy of something, then they sent it to you. And my responsibility is to you and to let you know if something is, And I don't know. I really don't agree with that. Because My job isn't to take money out of people's pockets, to take food out of people's mouths. So, I don't know. I'm kind of curious what people in chat, or if you're watching this after the fact on Memorex, what you think of that as far as me letting a publisher know, hey, your review is going to be a 5.5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. Or if I go ahead with this review, it's probably going to be like a 4 out of 10. Do you want me to go ahead and do it? And they're like, no. It's like, okay. I don't know. I'm also not one of these people that like sit there and be like, I'm going to savage this game. Oh. I don't know. Gleeman RX says, I hate this game, you son of a gelatinous cube. Kabuki Kid says, I've seen my share of videos, never saw a name calling one though. That would be amusing. It's more, you know what it tends to be that I've seen a couple over the past couple of years. Now I'm trying to remember who they were for. It was essentially the reviewer must have found out after the fact, after they agreed to do the review, that the creator their politics were completely in conflict with the reviewer's politics. Will GM for Food is with us in chat, says Jeff's Gaming Thunderdome. 2 games enter, 1 game leaves. We don't need another hero. Yeah, I wouldn't say that was a great Mad Max movie. I'm sort of like, what are you aiming for? G rating for this thing? What the hell? Semper Buffo says, I feel if they send you, they expect a review in the aftermath of that review. Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility. I will say that when I do send a publisher an email letting them know that it's going to be less than stellar, they always thank me for letting them know. So there is that. Will GM for Food says, if the game doesn't contain political content, the publisher's politics shouldn't matter. I pretty much agree with that. Man says their opinion is the warning of a not so stellar review isn't necessary, but I think it's a good practice. To me, it provides some level of respect. Kabuki Kid says Thunderdome was still fun, but definitely the weakest Mad Max. I mean, there were some cool parts to it. I think it was just too focused on the kids, in my opinion. Very minimal focus on Max from about the halfway point of that film. So I don't know. I mean, I liked it. It's not like I'm like, oh, I hate that movie. It was all right. Just wasn't Road Warrior by any stretch of the imagination. All right. So that's pretty much the topic for tonight. Talking about some of the pitfalls that tabletop gaming reviewers need to avoid. I will say there are a good number of tabletop gaming reviewers out there who don't fall into these pitfalls. They don't fall into these traps. They respect their audience, which I think that's one of the main things that I look for in a content creator who tackles the hobby is, do they respect their audience? Because sometimes you can tell there are some folks out there who are sort of like, you're all idiots. I'm the smartest person in the room. What are you talking about? But I think that's like a big thing, respecting the people who take time out to watch your videos. Now, sadly enough, some of the people who watch the videos don't respect you as a content creator. But yeah, it's just how that works. Kabuki Kid says, yeah, Road Warrior is the best of this series. Will GM for Food says, I thought Mad Max was the second movie. No, that's the first. The first is Mad Max. And then wasn't Road Warrior called, or I should say The Road Warrior, called Mad Max 2 like in Australia? I seem to remember that. Maybe I'm wrong. Kabuki Kid says they played in a Dungeons and Dragons game where the half-orc player had a little harness thing on his back that another gnome character rode around on, sort of like a Master Blaster thing. I saw that in something else. Also a fantasy role-playing adventure not that long ago. And it was sort of the same kind of setup where it was like I think it was like a goblin who was riding on the back. So, Stephen from Roll for Combat says, yes, it was called Mad Max 2. But here in the U.S., Mad Max didn't really do all that much. In fact, I think if memory serves, they re-released Mad Max after Road Warrior came out and did pretty well at the theaters. So I remember I saw Mad Max prior to Road Warrior because I had a friend in high school who was really into like car movies, like Gone in 60 Seconds and stuff like that. He would have enjoyed Cannonball. Probably watched it at some point. We just saw it during the brief intermission. So, all righty. I think tomorrow, let me know if you're interested in this. I might do another role-playing game stories episode, and I will continue to tell you about the bit of Massive Nyarlathotep with Mike McCormick, the private investigator that Elliot and Paul, their characters left their dead body in a ditch on the side of the road. What happened after that? So that might be tomorrow's show. Like I said, it's not the easiest to come up with topics for these 3 topics a week, especially because I don't want it to just boil down to having let's whine about Wizards of the Coast. Let's whine about Dungeons and Dragons. Let's make sure we do 1 a week. And yeah, those will pull in a few thousand views all in all. I'm not all that concerned with, pulling in the views. So, Kabuki Kid says, I guess it was a thought that the Australian accents were too thick. Probably. I remember I saw Mad Max in a theater. And I mean, I understood what they were saying, but yeah, I seem to recall sitting there thinking, this is an Australian movie, huh? I didn't know that. It was fine. It was all right. Will GM for Food says, yeah, Watsy whining doesn't age very well. Yeah, because it's always, it's always something new. It's always some new controversy that breaks out for them. So, I don't know. Anyway, like I said, I think tomorrow we'll continue story time. I believe this will have 3 parts. So I started off last week. If you didn't see Thursday's show, that was story time. I talked about this. And then we will pick up from the cliffhanger. Wasn't really a cliffhanger, but we'll pick up from where I left off last week. And then I think we'll go to a bit of a cliffhanger. And then next week, I'll probably wrap the story up. So there you have it. And of course, I've got loads of videos I'm working on. So stay tuned for those later on this week. All right, that's it for this time out. If you were watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, a bigger thank you, tip of the cap to you, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company too. But of course, I know a lot of you out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Yay. If you like the video, by all means, give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell, because it will not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central. It'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my upcoming first look at the role-playing players book. Yes, role-playing game players book for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition from Pinnacle Entertainment Group, which just arrived in the mail today. Sweet, very nice. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. I'll be back tomorrow with role-playing game story time. Thanks for watching. And as always, I certainly hope each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.